What Big Teeth You Have by Ourliazo. Summary: Megumi is sleep deprived and feeds Sukuna a grape when he gets stared at by the third eye in Itadori's face for too long. It starts a thing. Fushiguro Megumi ran 2 back-to-back missions, only to finally stumble back to the school at 3 in the morning, waking at his alarm at 6 to do morning training. It is now 8 and he sits at the table, sort of staring down at his breakfast, so out of it he takes a while to understand that he's supposed to be eating right now. Kugisaki and Itadori are arguing over something on his left, or more like loudly daring each other to see who has the balls to call Gojo daddy the next time they see the man. And that noise is literally the only thing keeping Megumi awake right now. Megumi is past the usual tiredness of sleep deprivation, past the manic energy high, and straight into some form of half-consciousness while he takes everything in with detail, but his brain doesn't process it. Megumi plucks a grape from the bunch on the side of his plate. He doesn't remember adding the grapes, but maybe he did? He eats it, and then another. It's nice. Megumi holds up a grape, turns to the other 2 to try and tell them how incredible these grapes are, but they're still arguing, and so Megumi waits patiently for a pause in the conversation, hand still half raised. Megumi blinks, and a third eye in Itadori's face blinks back, a mouth splitting open the skin underneath. Even without the usual manic grin, it's rather intimidating. The eye looks down at the grape, back up at Megumi. Megumi lifts the grape a bit more, thinks about saying something about the food but has completely forgotten what he wanted to talk about. The mouth opens, waits. Megumi puts the grape inside. There's a pause, and then Kugisaki leans towards Itadori, having caught a flash of odd movement. What was that? The grapes are really nice, Megumi says. Another, Sukuna demands. Kugisaki turns to Itadori, eyes wide. Do you taste grape? No, Itadori admits slowly. Does it go to my stomach? Where do the fingers go? Megumi offers up. Itadori shrugs. Yeah, it's probably fine. He steals some grapes from Megumi. Itadori is slumped on the wooden porch running along the outside of the building, at a bit of an awkward angle and still wearing sweaty gym clothes, clearly having slipped in a doze after exhausting himself. What's that? Sukuna asks, eye following Megumi as the teenager walks past. Megumi hesitates, a half-peeled banana in hand. It's a banana, and I don't feel comfortable with shoving it into my friend's face. And I don't feel comfortable with murdering your whole family, but I'll do it if you force me to. Sukuna drawls sarcastically. Okay, Megumi says and starts rattling off the address to the Zenin clan compound. Give me the food, Sukuna orders, cutting Megumi off. Megumi pauses and finally decides it's really not worth it. He crouches down beside Itadori and breaks off a piece to feed Sukuna. Were bananas a thing before you were sealed, or was the modern version cultivated after? I didn't see any, Sukuna mumbles with a full mouth. These are good though. Maybe it wasn't in Japan yet. Megumi offers. He eats some, feeds another piece to Sukuna. Do you know what a cake is? A what? Megumi shrugs. It's Kugisaki's birthday in 2 months, so I suppose you'll try it sooner or later. Megumi wakes to frantic knocking on the door and only has enough time to sit up before Kokizaki wrenches it open, phone clenched in one hand, wide-eyed and tense. "What's wrong?" Megumi asks, already slipping out of bed, straining his hearing for sounds of a fight. "Are there any shops open this time of night with cakes?" Kugisaki blurts out in a rush. "I can't find any online, but you know the area, right?" "It's..." Megumi checks. 2 in the morning. Only convenience stores would have..." He trails off. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I started it." "Great!" Kugisaki breathes out, makes it sound like a swear instead. "Then you can tell Sukuna he's not getting cake tonight." "He's fully out?" "Yup." "Anyone else in the school?" "Nope." "What's Itadori doing?" "Fucking nothing." Megumi takes a deep breath. "Okay, I'll distract him. You get back up." "I'm on it," Kugisaki says, walks through Megumi's room, climbs straight out of the window because she's a woman of pragmatism. "Where is he?" Megumi calls out of the window. "Here," Sukuna says, leaning against the door with his arms crossed, sharp black lines almost completely hidden in the dim moonlight. Megumi whips around to face the curse and half forms a hand sign before he stops himself. Fighting didn't work so well last time. You usually have cake for a birthday." "I don't want to wait," Sukuna states. Megumi hears the silent, "and now it's your problem." "We can get a convenience store cake, but it's going to be pretty bad, so it might be worth it to wait until tomorrow." "No," Sukuna says, tilts his head and smirks. "Did you know I'm very fast?" "Is this going to be a threat about killing a lot of people if you don't get what you want?" Megumi asks. "You catch on quick." Megumi takes a breath, thinks about fighting, thinks about dying for cake, and gives up. "We can probably make one." Sukuna steps aside and gestures Megumi out of the room, smiles with too many teeth. Gojo arrives just in time to quote-unquote help eat the cake, and he definitely planned it like that. Megumi is feeding Sukuna watermelon cubes because Itadori refused to, since Sukuna would just taste what he's tasting. And then Sukuna started talking about killing children in upsetting detail, so Megumi had to step in. After popping a cube into the mouth full of sharp teeth, Megumi jerks his hand back with a strangled noise. Itadori slaps a hand over his face. "Did he bite you?" "It was a nibble," says Itadori's other hand with a scoff. "I'm not the one running around eating fingers here." "That's an entirely different thing." Megumi clings to the fur of the white wolf as it races along the rooftop, throwing himself off sideways just in time to catch around the neck of the black wolf and swing himself upon it. He practices a few more jumps between them, does a quick run to see how fast they can go before he starts slipping off from the speed, and finally gives them good pats for being best boys. "You look like an anime character when you ride them," Kugisaki calls out from her sprawl on some nearby steps. "The hot kind, not the JoJo kind." "How dare you!" Itadori cuts in. "JoJo is love, JoJo is life." They start kicking at each other. "Do you need something?" "We're gonna get boba," Itadori explains, catching Kugisaki in a leg lock, and then immediately backing down when she pulls out a hammer and goes for a kneecap. "Sure," Megumi muses. "Let me get my stuff." They end up buying Sukuna a whole bubble tea for him alone, but he still ends up drinking most of Megumi's. Nobara wakes up to Netflix stalled on the "Are You Still Watching" screen, the room littered in empty bowls of snacks. She vaguely remembers lying down, knees hooked over the armrest, sprawled across the laps of the two boys. Itadori has his head on Fushigoro's shoulder, who is slumped back, both of them passed out. Nobara sits up, which is more of a struggle than she's willing to admit, and considers just turning off the TV and lying back down again. She shakes her head to try and wake up, then squints through the darkness when Itadori turns to her. "I'm heading to bed," Nobara tells him, stands up and shaking her shirt until the last remnants of popcorn caught on it fall onto the floor. "Leave the trash, we'll clean up later." Itadori stands and easily lifts a sleeping Fushiguro into a comfortable hold, an arm behind the back and under the knees. Nobara kicks some stuff out of the way and leads them out, sneaking past darkened hallways back to their rooms. She shoves open the door to Fushigoro's room and walks off straight to hers. Pretends it's too dark to see black streaking down Itadori's skin. "Hey," Kugisaki murmurs quietly, falling into step with Megumi as they walk to the side of the cursed spirit they were trying to track down. "I was thinking, and I feel like I would want to know what happened." "It's worse when you drag it out like that," Megumi warns her. "Before, when we fell asleep during movie night, Sukuna carried you back to bed," Kugisaki says, pauses. "He left immediately after, and when I checked after half an hour, it was just Itadori sleeping in his own bed." Megumi takes a deep breath. "Does he sometimes watch you? Like sometimes you look and there's just another eye? He doesn't do anything, and it goes away after a bit." "I've noticed it," Kugisaki admits. "But he only watches you." "Fuck," Megumi says. "Do you think that's why Itadori's ignoring me recently?" "I really don't think that's the biggest issue here." Megumi snaps awake in panic to a hand on his ankle, and Sukuna bats away new, the massive bird smashing into the wall and screeching. Megumi sits up and calls the shadow back to his side, but doesn't dismiss it. He swears Itadori was still on a mission, but apparently he got back fast. "Sukuna, I want omurice," Sukuna declares. "At 4:30 in the morning?" Megumi blurts out. "Are you pregnant? What's with these weird cravings at ridiculous times?" Sukuna doesn't deign to reply, just starts pulling Megumi out of the bed by the grip he still has on the teenager's ankle. Okay, wait!" "I think Sukuna's trying to steal my friend," Yuji tells Nanami. Nanami pauses and folds up his newspaper, sets it on the table, sighs. "I'm quite certain Fushiguro likes you more than a cursed spirit." "I don't think it matters what Fushiguro wants," Yuji mutters. "That's the problem." "How about you ask him anyway?" Nanami suggests. "Just come in," Megumi says, sitting at his desk doing homework and getting very distracted by the way Itadori hesitantly wanders back and forth past the half-open doorway to Megumi's room. Itadori nudges the door open. "Hey, are you done ignoring me now?" Itadori begins, then rethinks. "I was hoping Sukuna would leave you alone if I just wasn't physically close enough for him to bother you. Turns out he's willing to go the extra mile. Really sorry about last night." "It's fine," Megumi muses. "You can buy me lunch." Itadori grins brightly. Megumi is internally screaming because the trains are packed since it's lunch hour and he has the very fun job of trying to maneuver himself around Sukuna so no one accidentally touches the cursed spirit and gets murdered. Sukuna watches this with amusement. Are you enjoying the date? It's the 8th of... What? The date? Megumi asks, a bit flustered because he just barely blocked the handbag from jabbing Sukuna in the side. This date, Sukuna clarifies, doesn't even seem bothered that he has to. The black lines warp when he grins wide. This romantic date. It's nowhere near Valentine's Day. How do you even know that exists? Megumi questions, sends a panicked look at an older man who's muttering loudly to another about rowdy kids and gang tattoos. You're a bit of an idiot, Sukuna realizes. Megumi is panting hard, hunched over with his hands on his knees, blood everywhere and several trees broken into chunks on the forest floor. Megumi straightens up again, slowly getting his breathing under control. Thanks for the assist, he says sarcastically, glancing sideways. Sukuna is leaning casually against the thick tree, just barely outside the mess. Oh, I'm ever so sorry. I didn't realize you needed assistance, considering how you mauled that cursed spirit to death and then proceeded to tear apart its friend. Megumi pauses. Thought you were Itadori. Also, those words are a little bit exaggerated. Exaggerated? I almost got hit with a flying arm when you ripped it off that poor thing with your bare hands. Megumi huffs. Again, you're taking things out of context because it had sticks for arms, so... However, Sukuna smirks. I did enjoy the show. I think Sukuna is bullying me, Megumi tells Gojo. Gojo starts laughing and doesn't stop. Pulls off the blindfold just to wipe his eyes because he's laughing so hard he's crying. Thank you. Megumi deadpans. Sobbing over my favorite trio because I miss them so much. Them sleeping cuddled on movie nights is such a sweet image. Poor Megumi just wanna eat in peace. And Gojo being unhelpful in this situation feels so canon in my opinion. This feels like something straight out of season 1, which is my favorite and has my whole heart. Rewatched several times too. And man, I need to catch up with season 3 soon. Season 2 left me so emotionally wrecked that I'm scared to get near the new season. All in all, thank you so much Ourliazo for giving me permission to podfic your lovely work. This was so fun to read. And thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in to the first JJK podfic on here. Don't forget to send kudos to the author through the link in the description. Also, if you'd like to request any fics, YouTube community tabs are now open for you to post, aside from Tumblr. And if you'd like to show more support or check out the monthly schedule, click the link through Ko-fi. Hope you have a great week. Till next time.